see. Took us about a month. I think it was around end of May. Near the end of May, they asked me if I would run movies in the movie houses. They called them kinos, movie house. And I says, yeah, I'll be glad to do that. And that would get me out of doing some of the other things I didn't like to do. But it was a job. Somebody has to do it. And I would go into each of the towns that had a movie house, and I'd go up and I'd set up my 16mm projector, and I'd run Army films. And I did that for a while. And then one day, Joe Pollock stopped me on the street and he says, hey, we're going to do this show for entertainment for ourselves, something to break up the monotony. Would you make some lights for us? We heard you did that in school. And I says, yeah, be glad to. So got hold of some lights and made them up, and we got ready to put a show on to entertain us. So something to do to break up the monotony of Army of Occupation. And that's how the show got started. And that's how we became, the Carmen show sprouted out of that, called GI Carmen.
And how long did the show go on for?
How long, what?
How long was GI Carmen on?
That went from June until the following March. That was quite a long time.
How many men were involved in this?
49 GI combat veterans.
Were they all from the 60s?
All from the 253rd. All from the same regiment. They were all combat from all the companies.
Well, tell me how it began as a regiment, and then division, and then tell me the progression of the show.
Well, of the show. Well, we did it first in Talbot Bishopsheim. That's where we were going to do our first performance, and it was called the Rathaus, or the city courthouse, or house of the mayor. But anyhow, we had a big room there, and I made up a lot of lights, and the guys found costumes wherever they could find them in the theaters and things around, and we put a little skit together, and we named it GI Carmen. And so the guys from the 253rd came to see the show. Well, we did it for 2 or 3 nights because so many people wanted to see it. And when we thought we were all done after the 3rd night, the 254th put out a streamer saying, hey, we'd like you to come over and do the show for us. And we said, okay. So we went over to 254, and we did it for them. And that was a couple more nights, and we said, boy, this is great. We could only do this for some more regiments. We could stay away from the division for a while. Well, it worked that we worked every one of the regiments, and finally we did division headquarters with General Harris, General Hibbs, and Colonel Wheeler and the gang. And right after that was over, we thought that was the end of it. But in the audience that night was a fellow, a lieutenant, 2nd Lieutenant, Mortimer Yoakum, his name was, who saw the show, and he wanted us to take it to Heidelberg, which ain't too far from where we were. And I said, well, we really couldn't do that. We belong to a division. We just can't get up and move. He said, well, who's your colonel? And we said, Colonel Wheeler. And he said, well, we'll get in touch with him and see if we can arrange you fellows to come. And we said, okay. So sure enough, we got released.
And who's the general that helped you?
Oh, well, General Harris and General Hibbs. They were our generals.
Who was the general that helped move the program around there?
That was General Lee, I believe. There was a couple of people that was interested in the show for the simple reason the show was GI. It was for GIs. It was GI humor of that time period. Like, for instance, we had a sign that go across the stage between the 1st and 2nd act. And the sign would read, be careful, she may look clean, but we left it go at that. Well, the GIs knew what that meant. And then the next act, with GI would chase her across the Ich haben Sie Zigaretten, and they all knew that. Okay, next act, she's wheeling a baby across the stage and he's going, bad news, bad news. Well, GIs understood that. That was the little tidbits that we put into the show. And we also, instead of having an intermission, we'd have little skits pop up on the stage. You know, funny things happen. And this was the humor of it. And then the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd act, it was in the same courtyard. and it was a takeoff on GI Carmen.
How long was the program?
Program ran about an hour and a half, considering the breaks, three breaks in between. Ironic, we were up in Berlin, and we met Marlene Dietrich up there, a wonderful person. We had a great time with her. And she come over one night, and she says, "Hey, guys, I'd like to know if I could be between your first and second and third act." And I think it was Al Vecchia said, "Well, who the devil are you?" And she says, "I'm Marlene Dietrich." Oh, we all knew who she was. Oh, gosh. Well, okay. So we let her in. We made the between the acts a little longer so we could accommodate her. Well, Al Vecchia puts the wrong patch on her leg, and he hid the saw, and they just had all kinds of fun with her. And a lot of people don't realize that after the show at night, we would go to all the hospitals and entertain the GIs that were in the hospitals. And we used to, so when she got wind of that, she asked if she could go with us. And we said, yeah, but, you know, we're in trucks, and we don't have cars or anything. We just have everything we had was moonlight requisition. That's what I mean, GI term, stolen, okay? So anyhow, make a long story short, we'd climb in the back of the truck, and away we'd go. And we'd introduce her to the GIs in the hospital, and they all thought we'd be kidding, you know, and she'd come out. I don't know whether you understand her or not, but she had a very husky voice. And boy, they had a ball with her. They thought she was great. We had a lot of fun with her. She was a great girl. And in Paris, we met Gertrude Stein. She's the author of a book, A Rose is a Rose is a Rose. Very interesting girl. In fact, she invited us up to her apartment for gingerbread and tea. I got tapes of this. It's crazy. But anyhow, she asked Herb, what would you do when you get home? He said, I can now walk down my street with my head held high. I don't have to give a darn for no one. And that was what his response was. I remember she had a fellow there, and it was backstage after the show was over one night, and he wanted to know how I had the clouds going across the stage. And I said, well, I do it with a junk box. And he says, what's a junk box? And Gertie says, it's a box that he made. So I got the French guy that was doing the theater to lower this box down. And he looked at it and he said, God, it's all tin cans and I don't know what else you got inside. I said, I got 3 lenses on it. And I says, inside is the positive pictures of the clouds. And when you turn the heat up on the light, the heat turns this film around, and it projects on the wall, and you can see it moving across the wall. Oh, he thought that was fantastic, but he says, how do you make the stars go on and off? I says, well, if you look real close, and I showed him, there's the light, the same thing, except I have the light source, and then I have these little pins standing up, and all they were pencils stuck in this goo I had there. And when the light would go along, as it went by, it would project through a point of light onto the screen, and as it would pass over, it would turn it on and off. He thought that was awful. So I said to Gertie, I said, who the devil's this guy? And he said, oh, he came over from Paris. He's from the ballet over there. I forget the name of it. Some big ballet over there. And he heard about the lighting. He never heard of such great lighting. He wanted to see it. And he said he sat on the first balcony, and Gertie says he was really amazed of how we did the lighting for the show. It was so well done, because we had the fire burning real lightly, and the sun would be coming up, and it would be all blue over here, and you could see the sun and the stars, and you could see it starting to, the sun, glistening, and then you could see the moon disappearing, getting lighter, and the clouds getting lighter. And he thought that was absolutely fantastic. But it was easy stuff. But we had everything we had. We made, or we built, or we moonlight acquisition.
Okay. But, how many different cities did that play?
Oh, God. Oh, we played an awful lot. We played all the cigarette camps. Herbert Tarrington, Chesterfield, Lucky Strike, Camel, all along in Le Havre, we played all the cigarette camps. In fact, I got pictures in the other room I could show you.
20 grand is on.
Pardon me?
20 grand.
I don't remember 20 grand. But I remember in Paris, we were told we were going to go to Paris, and we went down to Champs-Élysées with the Toreador, Carmen, and Alavecchia. And as we're going down the Champs-Élysées, the girls would be yelling at them, you know, in French, and they're saying, "Oh, you're the ugliest looking thing." They thought they were saying nice things, I guess. I don't know, but they were smiling. I mean, it was crazy. We went up to see General Lee, and we gave him a couple of free tickets to come see the show. We played the Intermariner Theater there in Paris.
Did it make a lot of revenue?
We didn't charge.
No?
It was all free to the GIs. Any GI wanted to come. They came from all over. I mean, they trucked them in by the hundreds.
What was the biggest crowd that you had, biggest place that you played?
I guess Salzburg. We played Salzburg at the big festival house in Salzburg. That was the biggest theater I think we ever played
How many
in.
men could it fit in there?
Pardon me?
How much audience could fit in there?
Oh, God, I don't know. But it was we drove our semi-tractor trailers on this stage. From the first balcony, they looked like they're about 4 inches long. That's how big that was. We had to bring the curtains in to set up our stage so that they could see it. That's how big it was. And
Of the 49 men you said, how many were on the stage?
all except the guy that was our makeup artist. He was used to be with 20th Century Fox. He did our makeup. We had one fellow did the choreographer. He was with 20th Century Fox, and he taught dancing. And let's see, we had myself, which is backstage, did all the lighting, and Joe Pollock, that wrote the show, was Quilton J. Foss, or if you remember, if you listened to opera, they had Milton J. Cross, who was the narrator of the opera. Well, he did the same thing, and he would open it up by saying, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Slopopolitan Opera. Tonight's show of Bizet's Carmen, GI Carmen, the burlesque version of." And that's how he started his repertoire to the people. And he explained the first act, then he'd come on and the spotlight would hit him, and he'd talk about the second act. The spotlight would hit him again, and he'd talk about the third act. And that's how we did it. And it was quite interesting. And we played Marseille. We met Bob Hope, Jerry Colonna, and Vera Veg there. We had a ball with them. I set up the lighting for Vera Veg. Then we left there and went up and around into Italy. We played for the British at Genoa, and we played Rome, Florence, and then they asked us to play up in Gorizia and Tarvisio. Any other shows would never go up there because it was so rough getting up there first. The 88th Division was up there at the time, and they were afraid that there were some bandits still in the hills yet, and you could get shot at. Well, we had guns. We didn't worry about it. And so, okay, we're going to go up and we're going to entertain them. And we did. We went up and we told them, here we are. We're going to entertain you. We would turn the mess hall into a theater and then back to a mess hall for morning breakfast. A lot of work, but we did it. And every man worked. Everybody got in the cast, did it.
I guess the last one will be the play.
You want to look at that?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Of course, people would never believe what goes on in this. This is a story that you wouldn't even believe that it would what we did, because it is so outlandish of how we did it and what we did. People wouldn't even believe it. Well, here's the patch where you saw that. This is where we started, Talbot Bishop's son. That's the show. This was for just the GIs of the 63rd. Well,
Would you go around hanging them up?
yeah. So the GIs knew there was going to be a show in town. And there we are. This is the fellow that was responsible for taking it to Heidelberg, and this was taken in Heidelberg. This was taken in Talbot Bishop's sign. And if you look at it, it tells you about it. The last show presented before the 254th in Craiglington when some 1,500 men of the 251st, 255th gave the production a rousing reception at Councilsouth, where the radio microphone carried the show live to the blue units in other towns. Interesting, isn't it? Personnel of the 765th Ordnance, 263rd Engineers, and several medical detachments saw the show at Lauda Monday night. On Tuesday, the cast moved to Bad Mergentheim, where the DAC personnel witnessed the musical. Wednesday was an off night. Thursday was set aside for moving day. Lieutenant Robert Bogan, 253rd Special Service Officer, is expected to take the troop before the 7th Army units. The show has been lengthened a half an hour to include more dialogue. In their off time, the cast has been rehearsing new chorus numbers and polishing up Bizet's opera. That shows you how crazy it really was, you know. It's hard to, here's what we look like. That's how we started out. That was the raw show. And that's where we put the show on. There's the sign. Crazy, huh?
A lot of men dressing up like women. I
Yeah.
think. Hey, whatever floats your boat.
Huh?
Whatever makes you happy.
Oh, God, it was absolutely hilarious. I mean, and then this is what we look like in Heidelberg. That's Tom Juan and Sweet Sue, Carmen, and the Toreador, El Stinko.
Now, this was an original play?
Yeah. No, I don't, it was written just for this. It was different than anything you'd ever would have saw.
Now, did you ever talk to the pilot?
Oh, yeah.
Ask him where he came up with the idea?
Oh, Joe and I got tapes of both him and I when we used to go up to see this guy before he died. And, God, they're almost hilarious to watch and listen to because of what we did and how we did it. People wouldn't believe what we actually did. Some of the hospitals we played in, I mean, raw stuff. I mean, and here's the whole, here's the entire group. And then they used to dress some of the girls up, and they'd go into bars and get drinks for free.
Was Heidelberg big?
That was the Heidelberg, when we played the Stop Theater in Heidelberg. And this is the original lighting that I did so that I could tell the Germans.
It's in German.
Yes, it's in German, so I could tell the Germans where I wanted stuff hung and all, so I could get it done right. Otherwise, I couldn't talk to them. If I could give them instructions, that was the easy way to go. You got to use a little bit of noggin, you know. Because my German wasn't that good, I'll tell you. There's Lee. There's Sweet Sue, and that's General Lee. There's Joe Pollock.
And he was a private.
That's El Stinko.
He was a private.
He was a private, right? And that's a pillow in there. He ain't that big, but he was a big man. Don't misunderstand me. Yeah, he died just before we were ready to put the show on. Here's some of the cast. Fraternizing orders. How not to get, never to associate with Germans. Be fair and firm with the Germans. Never trust a German. It tells you all about different, you know, things that you weren't allowed to do, you know. And yeah, this is the whole cast here. That's the entire cast. I don't really want to get a shot of that one or not. You get too much reflection or not?
That's fine.
I could come up more with it. How's that?
Perfect.
It's a cuckoo.
Yeah.
This is the opera. That was what we gave out.
Program.
The program, yeah. Yeah, we lost a lot of the men already.
And you had reunions of the cast?
We have reunions of the division once a year, and the Philadelphia chapter has 2 reunions, a fall and a spring reunion.
Well, does the cast have more than one reunion?
Well, we had 2 reunions. We had one 20 years after the fact, and we put the show on in New York. And The other one, we just had to get together here in Trevose.
What was the play about?
Huh?
What was it about?
GI Carmen, just a regular show. It was Carmen, you know. You know the opera Carmen, but it was like that, only GI style.
And where's that from?
That's from the Life magazine. They thought that guy, I never forget the guy come up and he says, I've seen a lot of shows in my time, and he says, this has got to be the craziest show I've ever seen. This is from Paramount Theater, and it talks about what we're doing. And we had, it was estimated by this time we had done 100,000 GIs, including Berlin and Top Hat and all the different places we went from there. This is, he was, I don't think you ever heard of Reinhardt. He was a jazz guitarist. He was, this is in Paris. Look at all this stuff. These are all taken out of magazines and newspapers. They're getting so old you can't even read them anymore. Started 6 months ago. With 45, they said, on here. 60 years got together.
Where was this taken?
I don't know.
No, this picture right here.
Stars and Stripes. That's all I know. Oh, that's telling the GIs when they're going home. That was in Marseille. We were shipping them out of Marseille, and they had this big sign up there, go west, young man, go to the lady with a lamp in her hand, Statue of Liberty. Some of the guys, and some of the